Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for a very special double feature screening. We're going to do two films offered courtesy of Vinegar Syndrome, starting with WINTERBEAST, which runs about 76 minutes. And then we have, for our second feature, Don't Panic, which runs 90 minutes. This will be a conversation that starts off with a little bit of an introduction about WINTERBEAST, and then we'll take a break and discuss WINTERBEAST and then go into Don't Panic, followed by some more discussion. But of course, I should introduce the people who will be guiding you through this amazing double feature of movies tonight. Let's welcome up the co-hosts of Fangoria's Colors of the Dark, Dr. Rebekah McKendry and Elric Kane. And we also have a very special guest from the American Genre Film Archive, Brett Berg. So let's get right up.
Hey!
Hey guys. So I'm going to just very quickly make one change to our settings here for the audience. But as usual, if anyone wants to ask questions throughout, just use the Q&A box, and we'll make sure to allow you to come on camera and ask questions when we get to the right time. So,
Yay.
Welcome, guys.
You guys are in for a treat tonight. I have to say, we think neither Elnick nor I nor
Elnick.
Alex.
Wait, who am I? Elnick? Is this my new nickname?
Elric,
my God.
Alex, and myself. None of us have seen WINTERBEAST. I assume, Brett, you've seen it already, right?
It's been a minute, but yeah, I have seen it, yeah.
Okay, so none of us have seen this before. So this is pretty exciting because Elric and I actually reached a point where usually we kind of screen a lot of this stuff before it will come out. And with this, we were like, let's wait. So like,
this is the least research I've ever done for anything in my life.
Yeah, I know. I'm coming in so unprepared.
I put on a robe, that's it.
Yeah, we have seen Don't Panic, which is a glorious celebration of dinosaur pajamas. So we decided that we needed to make it a pajama jammy jam tonight. So we're wearing our pajamas, and Elric has a cat for some reason. And so yeah, Don't Panic is an absolute hoot. But let's start with WINTERBEAST and Brett, who is here to tell us a little bit about WINTERBEAST.
Well, WINTERBEAST comes from two great traditions, the sort of like wintry New England style of backyard filmmaking and just the lineage of homemade horror. This is a release that's on Vinegar Syndrome's, what is the actual name of it?
Homegrown Horrors, I believe.
Homegrown Horrors. And so
I just watched Dreams Beyond, Death?
Beyond Dreams Door.
Beyond Dreams Door. I just watched that one too. Oops, lost my cat.
Yeah. Is it good?
I'm looking forward to WINTERBEAST.
So I guess you know, a lot of films that are in the homemade horror, backyard horror style are filmmakers who are steeped in other filmmakers. So like, if you weren't a video store kid, sometimes you were a filmmaking kid. It was much rarer back then, I think. And you know, people like Sam Raimi and John Carpenter came from a DIY filmmaking tradition into what they do. But there's horror filmmaking is huge with like people who did this either as a hobby or as a means to get a career, but maybe didn't get there. And we have these interesting documents. So there's Nathan Schiff, who's also from the East Coast. Weasels Rip My Flesh, Long Island Cannibal Massacre. He's a king of the Super 8. Don Dohler is another East Coaster. And he did Night Beast, The Alien Factor, and Fiend. This movie, WINTERBEAST, feels very, very Don Dohler Jr., for lack of a better word. J.R. Bookwalter and Tempe Video released a ton of films in the 80s and 90s that were like Super 8, including his opus, The Dead Next Door, which I highly recommend. It's kind of like Raimi Jr. If you love these things and you want to see people epically tributing them, then this is a great way to do it, I think. And yeah, going back to the 70s, Equinox, the great Dennis Muren film, and Dark Star by John Carpenter, Dan O'Bannon. So if you really like the horror by any means necessary, this is definitely one of those films. You can feel the love. It's in every frame of the stop motion animation that's in this silly ass movie.
Do you know, because I purposely haven't researched too much. I know it's the only film by the director, that much I know. But do you know much about why it's been, I mean, you probably do know this side, why it's been so hard to see? Because I had a bootleg of this a couple years ago that I just chose not to watch because I hoped eventually I'd get like a moment like this to see it good. But this wasn't the easiest film to track down for a long time. So
no, I imagine. Excuse me, hair in my mouth. Sorry. When you have long hair, you get it in your mouth. I imagine it has to do with like since it's your only film, one tends to be very protective of it if it wasn't like a big financial success. I've seen, all of us have interviewed filmmakers where they've only made one film and they tend to be more eccentric than the others, let's say. And sometimes if it's a failure or didn't live up to your expectations, you put it in the closet or the garage and you lock it away until some enterprising weirdo from the video label comes along and asks you about it 30 years later.
Well, and it's I think the fun part of the conversation is, and the second film doesn't come under the same banner, I don't think, really, because obviously he's a professional. Yeah, he's a professional film. But this idea that a lot of people who made that one film in this way ended up in very different careers. And sometimes they look back, sometimes they become evangelicals, and sometimes they become like heads of universities. And you get very interesting reactions to how some of them feel about their old films. I can't remember the one that Mike Williamson's a big fan of with the phone hang up or disconnected. I always remember that one.
It's got this amazing song in the middle that I'm like, there's no way you got rights to that. But
that was one of those guys who like definitely, I mean, now he's obviously maybe come to peace, but at the time when we were all talking about a few years ago, I remember he didn't look back and wanting to have that out there, basically.
And Disconnected, it is a fun, weird little film, and it is also available from Vinegar Syndrome, if memory serves.
Yeah, that's an interesting movie.
Yeah.
Vinegar Syndrome's catalog is littered with one-time filmmakers, and they've become kind of like one-time filmmaker whisperers.
Now, you mentioned kind of the New England snow homemade horrors. There's another one that I'm trying to remember that was probably around the same time. And it was actually recommended to me by Quentin Tarantino, who swore that it was like one of the best underseen films ever. And it was a group of theater students, and it was told as an anthology, but they were in every single one of the segments playing different roles. Do you remember the name of it? I know I have to hunt this.
Not children shouldn't play with dead things, because that's not.
It's got the word winter in it. It's like a winter's end, or now I have to hunt this while.
I know he likes Devil Times 5, which is.
I love Devil's Times 5.
That's also in the snow.
That's Leif Garrett, a little bit bigger, but this was very much homemade. So now I have to hunt this while we're in the middle of the screening. But but are there a lot of kind of these homemade New England ones with the snow aesthetic?
Maybe not with the snow. I tend to think of New England as kind of blustery rather than winter. Like I prefer the blustery ones myself, like your Malatesta's Carnival Bloods, for example.
That's a movie.
Yeah. I would say Nathan, look into Nathan Schiff. While he doesn't necessarily have like a winter wonderland kind of movie, his movies are very, like Backyard Frozen. Also the Polonia brothers, who were very prolific starting in the mid 80s. As teens, they've got some like wrap yourselves up in a blanket, like lights out winter horror vibes to a couple of their early pieces.
So I love the Backyard Horrors, and I have to say that, like, I know there's a book that was, and it's not a cheap pickup now, but it's definitely worth it. That came out probably it's been 10, 15 years now, but called Nightmare USA, and it is this big tome of a coffee table book.
I'll grab it for everyone to look at.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and that became like my Bible for a long time, and still is. I'll still randomly pick it up and find stuff in it that I haven't seen before. But it really does focus on some of the bigger name stuff as well. Like you can see Romero there on the front cover, but even Romero started as homemade horror to a degree. So it really does kind of look at a lot of the homemade horrors throughout U.S. history. And it also specifically kind of looks at, how everybody was shooting on Super 8, and then the transition to shooting on VHS, all of your shot on VHS ones, and really kind of how it progressed and how people kind of rose to the occasion all the time. And then I have to say Bleeding Skull is also a phenomenal resource.
And there's a new book. There's a new book out from Bleeding Skull, which I haven't gotten, the 90s Trash Odyssey. But
I don't think it has come out yet, because I pre-bought it and I haven't received it yet. But yeah, I definitely, they are just a ridiculous resource. And the first one is just a Bible of amazing cinema that you won't see on normal horror lists.
Yeah, I think, and the website, which is where a lot of the writing comes from, it's just great to scan it. Sometimes when I run out of things to watch, I'll just scan through and look for something. And I think that might have been where I first saw a Night Beast image, and then I saw it again in Mandy and was like, oh yeah, gotta see that movie finally.
Now we're watching Night Beast. There we are.
Yeah, exactly.
I remembered a potential winter horror for you. It's Feeders 2, Sleigh Bells.
Not it, but now I'm adding that. What is it? Feeders 2?
Feeders 2, Sleigh Bells. It's a Polonia Brothers movie.
And you don't have to see Feeders 1. You can just jump right in, guys. Like
no. It's actually it's just like Scanners 3. You don't need to see Scanners 2 to enjoy Scanners 3. Feeders 2, you can jump right in.
So here's my next clue to whatever this title is. Number of years ago at the Silent Cinema, before I got shut down, they showed this as part of the, when they did this 50 states of homemade horror during Halloween.
Yeah, I remember that. That was one of the best programs.
It was one of them.
I
remember that WINTERBEAST was part of that program. Are we going to watch the movie you're dying to see?
Let's do it.
Oh, right. Wait, so it might be WINTERBEAST is what you're saying.
Yeah, because WINTERBEAST was the Maryland stop on that series.
Now, see, I have done Elric wasn't kidding when he was like, we're going in unprepared. So this is a Maryland horror. Where in Maryland is this based out of?
Oh boy.
Don Dohler's all Maryland. I think this guy's a Massachusetts guy, isn't he?
Oh boy, I could be totally wrong.
I think WINTERBEAST is, well, I don't know if it was made, but this guy's from Massachusetts. Don Dohler is the Maryland guy because J.J. Abrams was a little kid and did some music for it when he was super young for Night Beast. That's the J.J. For those who don't know the Star Trek, Star Wars, Night Beast connection, that's it.
So WINTERBEAST, this is the disc itself. Yeah, it does say Massachusetts. You are correct.
Fantastic. Okay, well, this might be the one that I have been trying to find the freaking title on for 10 years now since they did that circuit at the Silent Theater. So.
Before we go, everyone give a quick. So it's Vinegar Syndrome are doing their big sale halfway to Black Friday. So somebody asked us in the questions just one quick gem title that we might recommend from their catalog.
Oh,
before we move into the show.
That's a good question.
There's so many, but I gotta say, sometimes I keep thinking I come back to Psychic Killer. I feel like there's that's kind of like one of those ones it's a skeezy gem, and I always enjoy thinking about that movie.
I'm gonna go with just because I watched this a couple of weeks ago, and it took me a while to decide whether or not I liked it, and I ended up saying I really kind of enjoyed it. The Caller.
Oh, I like The Caller.
Yeah, and this one I was not expecting to enjoy nearly as much as I did, and while I was watching it, I was very taxed by it. But it's Malcolm McDowell and the wife from Funny Farm, which is how I recognized her, and she plays a woman who lives by herself, and one evening Malcolm McDowell shows up at the door and is like, my car broke down, let me in so I can call the police. And then the rest of the movie is a very bizarre, very kind of almost Twin Peaks-ish conversation between the two of them with this fucking bonkers twist ending that no one will have a clue what's going on.
Was that The Caller?
The Caller.
The Caller.
It's actually a really good movie.
It's like it functions like a theater production up until the end, and then it goes like full, just absolutely bonkers. Like they literally saved the entire budget for the end, but the conversation's really good too. And Malcolm McDowell is like eating the scenery the entire time, so it's really fun to watch.
I have a soft spot for the gateway Vinegar Syndrome titles that got me into collecting them. Which are Uninvited and The Suckling. And
The Suckling is some good stuff.
I haven't seen The Suckling yet. Thank you guys.
Oh, it's I tried to always pair it with 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. I think that is like the double feature from hell, because it's basically a back alley abortionist, but with a crazy monster that's like whatever is dripping down the drains is feeding this giant creature, very homemade. It'd fit in with what we're talking about today, actually.
But since somebody asked, Vinegar Syndrome, we should plug right now, is doing this absolutely amazing sale that they do every year around this time, where they do like the halfway to Black Friday thing where everything gets marked super down, and most of the horror community goes crazy right now and picks up stacks of stuff.
Oh, and if you get one disc this year, it should be called Get Even. It has some alternate title that they're putting on there. I don't know, Champagne and Bullets or something. I'd never heard of it called that. But Get Even is one, or Road to Revenge. It has Wings Hauser for the Wings nuts in the audience, but it is a movie.
Are there Wings nuts out there? That's a thing.
I thought,
okay, I thought it was just Elric, so I questioned.
Wings nut.
And I will say, go ahead.
he's unpredictable in anything he's in, and that's the best part.
Yeah.
And I will say that when we get to Don't Panic, which I will just tease a little bit by saying it is the Mexican mockbuster of Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's beautiful. It is just amazingly bonkers. But they have the actual pajamas from Don't Panic on the Vinegar Syndrome site, and there's only 4 pairs left. And I tried to order them and they did not have them in our size, Elric. So if you are a medium or a large, you are out of luck, but they got the other ends of the spectrums and they only have 4 pairs left, and they're only $25 right now because they only have 4 pairs left. So they're definitely worth picking up. But guys, are we ready for some WINTERBEAST?
I'm scared.
Me too.
Let's do it.
Let's pick it. Let's go in. Okay. See y'all on the other side.
Yeah. Okay.
Elric, come back to us, Elric. Oh, well, that was fucking amazing. Holy shit.
This is what I love, about the history of film, is that you think you've seen everything, and then the world gives you WINTERBEAST.
That was amazing. And I have to say, there were so many scenes. Of course, it had its kind of, laughable moments where like actors were flubbing lines and they kept the movie going.
Yeah.
WINTERBEAST.
That was amazing.
Next time, let's hunt bears. Now that's our last line.
Oh, so of course this had like the laughable moments where the acting was a bit off, or there were moments where they like flubbed lines and kept it going at points, but there were actually some legit good scenes, like the one with the record player, the like Baby Jane-ish thing with the mask. That was actually a really well done scene, and the stop motion on those monsters, even though it's the green screening's a little off, but some of those monsters are really good.
Yeah, it's a movie made by someone who's drunk on movies.
Yeah.
That record player scene is actually scary, I think.
Yeah,
that was unsettling. That was super weird. And it definitely had more of a pure Lynchian nightmare quality from that moment on. I was way more into the movie from that moment on. Sure. Like I was in at points and then out at points up until then. And then from then on, it just keeps going with nightmare weirdness after weirdness.
The scene where the guy is exploring the like abandoned house for like an insanely long time, it felt like an Art of Noise video. Like if I was like a synth band, I would hire this guy to come direct my music videos, because that legit felt like what it would have been.
It definitely felt like a music video, that section. It even felt like a band shot when they walked out to start it and the music kicked in. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I didn't understand where they were and why it was like summer and they're at a beach or something compared to the rest. I was like, what is happening?
I noticed like actors got or the character, the David Duchovny-esque character got a haircut midway through the movie, and small inconsistencies like that, but there was you could tell there was a lot of love in this movie, kind of from everybody involved. And I have no idea on the mythology, and I was really trying to understand it, but giant killer chicken. And
is it a chicken or a turkey? I wasn't sure. I was hoping this could be a good Thanksgiving thing, but if it was a turkey, but if it's a chicken, we're out of luck. I don't know.
They were showing chickens beforehand, so I assumed it was poultry affiliated. Okay. But I mean, it could be turkey. I don't know. So
I have a lot of questions about this movie, but the one that kicked it off for me was when he shows the tooth in the box. Did he just totally gloss over the penis that was next to it?
It's the same thing that Charles Bronson's got in Kinjite, I think. It's that same giant weird penis thing that gets stopped through the customs or whatever that moment is. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. They're like looking at a penis in a box, and then only at the last minute does somebody pull out the tooth, and you're like, what are they talking about? Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, there was one of my favorite. There was the scene which had great lighting where they were in an office and it was just a single shot, and they had this beautiful blue lighting with green in the foreground. And there was like a Native American head statue on the desk, and midway through the guy starts leaning on it, and then it cuts, and then it comes back and it's gone, and he's now just leaning on the desk. And I was like, oh, okay, that's abrupt. But yeah, there was just some amazing lines, and you could tell they were really, I mean, the script, they were aiming for a lot. It's got kind of, the cop caricatures. It's got the, there's something out there, sheriff. No, there's not type vibe going on. The hotel owner who doesn't want, the town shut down for business. And it's got all of these kind of beautiful formulas, but it's really trying to also nail the buddy cop movie, but also a comedy version of it simultaneously. And some of the dialogue is quite charming if you put your flyers next to those ashtrays and stuff like that. It's got some charming stuff to it.
Good lesson for the filmmakers in there. If you are using amateur actors, long takes don't always serve them well. Long takes are even professional actors will struggle with long takes and no coverage. And so it's like, obviously with indies, you know why they're doing it. But man, on a couple of the shots where there was very dialogue heavy at the start with the two guys in the room, and it went on and on. You just feel for these guys who are like literally looking for something. They get no business. They get no coverage. It's pretty rough on that.
Especially some of those takes reminded me of like early Herschel Gordon Lewis. Like if you think like Blood Feast, there's this one scene in Blood Feast where one of the police officers has to make a phone call back to the station. And it goes on for like 3 minutes where he's just giving solid exposition, but it's just one very untrained actor by himself kind of stumbling through it. And that's what a lot of these looked like, was just kind of like you just feel for them, and they kind of fall apart towards the end.
It's very weird pacing too, because in the first 5 minutes, you've got a lot of crazy stuff happening, completely unmotivated cuts to just crazy things. And then you have like 6 or 7 uninterrupted minutes of this one shot of them in the police station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of work went into the stop motion. As little work went into some of the practical shooting. It must have taken years for these folks to do this.
And so, some of the stop motion is so good. There's the one, I think it's supposed to be a totem pole, I'm not sure, but it's got all of the arms coming down.
Oh yeah,
and
that part's cool.
That was such, because it was very day glow and it had all this accenting. Like it was just really good. And the monster at the front was really good. Like it's so much so that and I texted a picture to Elric and Alec, like midway through, my 5-year-old son came in and was like, "What are you watching, mommy?" And he ended up watching the entire second half of the movie with me and got really into it and smiling and wouldn't stop. And I kept trying to explain that everything was fake, and he kept shushing me. But the stop motion was what was really kind of pushing him through, and he just absolutely loved it. And I just paid $30 to rent him Cruella, and this trumped Cruella tonight.
I believe that. So. And also this one had Baby Groot at the start. I love that first one. I was like, it's literally Baby Groot, like smashing a little plasticine woman against the wall. I loved it. It's so cute. Good stuff. Yeah, look, this is fun. This is fun in the same way that Night Beast is, I think, grabs you by the lapels and doesn't let you go kind of movie. But this has a similar charm, I think, in that handmade, but not. I couldn't do it. Like there's stuff in here that I couldn't do, and that always is where you're like Deadly Spawn has that for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Where the effects flow. The one that's most reminded me of, I don't think there's a good release of this yet, but there might be Mutilations. Do you know that?
Oh
one?
yeah.
That's it's like a class field trip from like a teacher to some UFO site or something, and all these cows are being mutilated, and then and it's really pretty clunky all around. But then you get into the middle of this movie, and suddenly there's like UFOs and aliens. It's all handmade, but really at quite a high level in
yeah.
But I think these two would go really well together, actually.
Yeah, we'd actually discussed Deadly Spawn on the show this week. It came up for some reason, and I can't remember. I guess because we were just talking about 80s horror in general. But Deadly Spawn has this feel, but the Deadly Spawn is so elevated because the effects in Deadly Spawn you feel like you're watching, you know, Steve Johnson or somebody like that. Like the little effects of the actual monster are just so well done, that everything else, the homespun nature of it, just drifts into the background in lieu of this beautiful alien.
And you miss that, like movies like this, you know, back, you know, maybe 90s, the end of this, but you know, there's a chance you would see this movie, like even as handmade and as indie and as like random as it seems. If you were looking into this kind of stuff at the time, you'd see it. Now, if this was made, I wouldn't even know it existed. It would be impossible for me to know, because there are 1,000 movies being dumped everywhere. So it'd just be something like this. Back then, there were so few movies, essentially, compared to now. I think that's something I kind of mourn, is that you know, we thought that digital technology would allow there to be, you know, thousands of people in every town like this making this kind of stuff, but that really didn't happen. It's a lot of emulation of the industry instead, and I love it when something pops up like this.
I think that because I've had students ask me, like, why don't we get the homespun ones like this anymore? And I think that we do. It's just they're not on Netflix. It's going to be something that you find on YouTube, and then you kind of have to go hunting for it. Like when we were growing up in the VHS markets, the VHS shelves it was like a Russian roulette of what you were going to get, because everything had a super high quality art on the front, and the box cover always made it look like you were about to watch, you know, some amazing high quality movie. And then you'd come home and it was Bloodstalkers or whatever, you know, it happened to be. And then a lot of times it fooled you multiple times because you forgot. Like I always say, I rented Headless Eyes is the biggest joke that was ever played on me, because I think I rented that movie at least 6 times, and every single time I would start and go, oh, I've seen it. Oh, well, I've already rented it again. I guess I'll just stick with it. And
for me, that was Blood Beach. I've seen Blood Beach so many times. I've read every time. I'm like, no, it's actually the last time I kind of liked it more. So maybe it did work.
I like the cops
over time at work, you know.
Yeah, but as long as it had a good box cover, which they all did, but there was nothing really separating a Suspiria from a Friday the 13th from something like this. And so it was just this kind of general, you know, everything became equalized on the video art. And now there's definitely, with the more saturated market, it's more like, you know, the prettier stuff goes to Netflix or Hulu. And some of the homespun stuff that I get sent off YouTube has this same quality to it, except it's now digital monsters, which can be equally fun.
And our attention span's so much less to take a risk. Like all of us, you know, I definitely am like that. It's like, if I don't know something's going to be good and it's streaming, it's very hard to push play. And then you push play, you give it very little time.
And that's a big product of streaming, I think, because it's like what I said with like the Headless Eyes, where it was like, well, I've rented it. It's all I've got for tonight. It's this, or I'm going to watch like, you know, some movie I've seen. I'm going to watch 16 Candles for the bajillionth time because it's the only one I owned. So it was always like, I'm going to stick with it. Whereas now there are literally evenings that all I do on Netflix is watch the first 5 minutes of films. And then I never decide on anything. And then I just go to bed.
Endless scroll. Yeah. WinterBeast knew what was up there, right? Like WinterBeast's first minute is perfect for Netflix. They're like
that's cold open.
Yeah, we're gonna just throw some shit at the screen. I love it. But also like why it's sometimes fun to blind, and this isn't a promo for Vinegar Syndrome so much, but they are one of the few companies where the blind buy is quite fun, because it doesn't feel like roulette. Like most companies, I kind of know what it's gonna. Most of Severance titles, I know what they're gonna be for the most part. But with Vinegar Syndrome, I'd say usually it's like 70% stuff I actually don't know what it is when I buy it or rent it or try to watch it. And so, you know, sometimes a blind buy can still be exciting because at least then you have the skin in the game and you're gonna follow through with it, you know. But this one delivers, I think.
I have to say that the Vinegar Syndrome cover art for WinterBeast is definitely what you're describing, Rebecca.
That shit looks epic.
Yeah, it actually is very reminiscent. I was haunted throughout all of childhood by the cover to Deadly Spawn, because the Video 101, the brown carpeted Culver City video store of my youth in the 80s in a strip mall, had tons of big box horror covers, and Deadly Spawn was the most frightening because it was the most striking out of all of them.
Yeah, I've told this story on our show a couple of times, but mine was Body Shop, which is another one that when you watch, it's very homespun. I don't know if I'd classify it as good as much as like it's kind of a fun watch. But it's a pile of body parts with one head that's got kind of spiky hair, and the back is also just a pile of body parts. I don't even know if it ever had a DVD release. That one may still be stuck on VHS. But that VHS cover haunted me when I was a kid. And I don't know why, because I'd watched tons of monster movies, but just the way that it looked, it just wrecked me. And I would creep around in the store so I didn't have to get near it. And it was years before I finally saw it. And then I was like, oh, this is silly. But yeah, it definitely took me down a little bit. So, but even now seeing my kids who pull all of my DVDs off the shelf and look at them to the point where I've had to put like anything too questionable up on the top shelves. And same with my books, but they still stare at them with the same fascination. Like my son looks at the Return of the Living Dead cover endlessly, and I won't let him watch it, but it's just, you know, the same captivation that I remember seeing in these covers.
I'd love to see something like this thing I brought up when Slashback Video happened, but I still think there's an experience where a video store, you know, opens up and it's designed like Slashback, but when you take your big VHS cover up to the thing, they hand you the Blu-ray or DVD of it to actually rent. But in the store, you still capitalize on all of this and maybe even make new ones for the new films that come out. And I think it would actually really set you apart because the experience is what we're talking about now. We're also talking about, like, we're doing the streaming still, and this is the month, you know, a couple weeks after people are kind of starting to toe back into cinemas, you know. So I think it is interesting that to keep any of these things alive, you're going to have to come up with ways to do that. It's not just enough anymore to assume that this medium's going to stay alive in all the ways you love. I think we're going to have to get very creative on all levels, to be honest. And I think that would be super fun. If anyone's listening and wants to steal that, please do.
Yes, somebody's got $450,000 to throw in such an
somebody
endeavor.
does.
I was
we know somebody
say,
does.
from a purely investment standpoint, I don't think there is a way to make a video store profitable anymore, unless it's attached to something like they're doing with the Draft House downtown, where it's got this very kind of niche thing, and it's very much like a collector's market. And
Vidiots,
you know,
I think it would be Vidiots coming back. I think it would be, again, you would have to take the model of what everyone's doing and make it like a subscription. So it's a video store, you get your subscription, and you get to go to the movie theater, and you get that subscription. So you get everything under a label versus how we're used to renting. But I agree. I mean, it's not financially. I'm just saying I want it. There's a lot I want that doesn't pay off.
Even though
I'm a failed businessman. Let's not forget that.
I look back at video stores with such just this beautiful, you know, kind of glow around it. But at the same time, I just rented my kids Cruella because I don't want to get up off my ass and take them to the theater this weekend. So, and you know, I'm looking forward to watching Quiet Place 2. Probably not in the theater, probably on my couch. And so
I'm going.
I know. I need to get back. I'm too overworked right now. Eventually, I know Elric and I will get back to the theater, but I'm always a sucker for more of the retro screenings than because we see everything new as well. Mm-hmm. Usually when the world was open, Elric and I kind of had our standard Friday night movie. No matter.
I do miss bombastic. I mean, that's one thing about saying like Quiet Place 2. That if that's the first big thing I go back to, I do miss seeing something big and loud in that way, just because I haven't really had that experience in a year, you know.
But didn't you go see Duel last week?
Yeah, no, seeing Duel on 35 was fantastic, and that was like the perfect film to get back into a theater. But it's different because that's like a homemade theater. It didn't feel like going to a big screen, you know.
And I do have to say, that's the movies that I still get really excited about seeing in a theater, is like, if you can tell me that something's on nitrate, I don't care what it is. I'll watch somebody like make pancakes on nitrate just because it's so amazing. Same
we
with
could
3D.
all burn to death. We just really, there's risky. A tension in the room, you know, we could all burn. I love it.
Yeah. Elric, where did you see that?
Secret Movie Club.
Oh yeah.
Which I had yet to attend, and I do want to plug it because, you know, they're obviously pushing really hard to put on lots of cool events. I had bought tickets a couple times and couldn't make it, and so when I saw, I just, that's one of those films that doesn't screen on film really much at all. And it's a perfect, especially again, if young filmmakers are watching this and haven't seen that, I think it's just such a masterclass on shot selection. You know, it's really, really great to see how a film can be put together in a very simple concept, right? So that's a great one, but you know, not as good as WINTERBEAST, obviously. That's why we're here. We're here to celebrate WINTERBEAST.
Since we are talking about theaters, like I do miss the New Bev discoveries that I used to have, where I would go to the New Bev having never have seen some of the films before, and it would just be amazing. Or like we used to do at the Silent Cinema, which we were talking about before, like Eyes of Fire. I remember that's one that you and I went to.
Exciting.
Another example of homemade horror. That was one that Elric and I went to together, having really no idea what we were going into, and just walked away with, that was like a fucking good film.
Yeah.
Rebecca, did we answer the question of, is this the movie?
This is not the movie, but somebody dropped it in chat and was like, hey, is it this one? And they were right. It is called Screams of a Winter's Night.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes total sense. It played at the New Bev Oh man, I think it was an all-nighter. It was,
Yeah,
I think, right in the middle of an all-nighter. I saw it. Yeah.
So there was, and this is a weird story. Many years ago, when I first moved to LA, I was standing in the middle of Eddie Brandt's, and all of a sudden I turn around and it was Quentin. And at the time, I didn't know him. He had no idea that, that I worked for Fangoria or anything. And I was just kind of like, oh, hey, what you renting? And he was looking for, oh gosh, what was it? I ended up recommending one of it was like a sexploitation or a TNA comedy from the 1980s called Love Lines, is what I recommended to him. And he ended up watching, and he was like, if you're looking for weird horror, Screams of a Winter's Night. And it was, I remember it being very
That's one of the hottest exchanges I've ever heard.
It was very kind of just like me trying not, it was like me trying not to freak out. And Jules was there. I met Jules at the same time. So it was kind of like an amazing thing. She now runs New Bev. But yeah, I'd only been in Hollywood for a week or two. And it was like, at that point, I had watched Gary Busey eat a roast beef sandwich at the Grove. And then I ran into Quentin at Eddie Brandt's. And I was like, this is fucking Hollywood. I love it. So yeah,
mine was Michael Madsen buying a kid's bike at a Toys R Us, and he's just staring there like this, like in the aisles, just staring at it. As I walked around, I just went, oh, I just kept moving. I knew.
My favorite LA parent story was, remember we went to that fair, the kids fair in Pasadena, and Willow from Buffy was there arguing with her kid of why he had to put his shoes on. And I was like, because I had kids at the time and they were young, and I was like, that's the most human conversation ever. So yeah, it was amazing. But
it all connects.
Total sidebars, guys. But yeah, Screams of a Winter's Night, and it's equally homespun. Louisiana horror. It's an anthology film made by a theater troupe where the same actors play the same roles in every single one of the segments. And I remember it feeling like this, where it is very kind of homespun, and you can see the seams of the filmmaking a lot, but at the same time, there's something really charming and good about it too.
Should we quickly just answer a couple of things that came in?
Totally.
This one was, did you catch any of did you catch that Twin Peaksy profile shot when they were near the beginning?
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, the whole thing. And actually, we'd been talking over chat during the movie about how it looked so Black Lodge at moments as well. And what year is WINTERBEAST again?
It says on the cover 1992.
Yeah, but if you look up, they started shooting something in 86, and just like a couple shots, and then in 89 they did a whole bunch. So who the hell knows how long they were at this,
Yeah. Twin Peaks was 90 to 91.
Yeah.
The movie in 92. So
they may have definitely been homaging it for some of the scenes. And that mask thing, I mean, that was like, it totally just worked with the mask stuff. It had just beautiful tones to it in that same scene.
And the music was really great. Like I from frame one, I was into all of the different pieces of music. There were lots of very disparate types of music in this thing, but the whole way through, I thought that kept the movie moving and was just a lot of fun. So I wasn't expecting that part. So that was good.
Yeah. Excellent. And good recommendation, Gabe, on Raw Force is just a fantastically bonkers movie. I haven't seen Putney Swope. He's recommending that one as well.
Robert Downey Sr.
That film is a masterpiece.
Yeah. That's not like typical of their releases. It's much more of a, part of the great 70s satires. Really good film.
That's awesome. We should get Vinegar Syndrome back on the show soon. They always bring us amazing titles and porn titles as well that I'm just like, how does this film even exist?
Well, they're about to release one of the greatest things ever. Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God. They're releasing Tough Guys Don't Dance by Norman Mailer. They just announced, I think, yesterday on their thing. And I had just watched it myself a couple days ago because Wings Hauser in that movie, I was talking about Get Even. That's actually his second, outside of Vice Squad, Tough Guys is his best performance. He's fantastic. People think of it as a goofy because of the one-line reading that I was just mocking, but the rest of the movie actually isn't like that. It has zero subtext. It's a movie that doesn't have a single thing under the surface, but it's kind of Twin Peaksy. It's like, I call it East Coast Twin Peaks. Like it's a crime and I think it's a fantastic, weird, oddball movie by Mailer, but I just noticed you're dropping these in the chat, Alex. Thank you so much. So I keep running lists of everything I haven't seen that sounds amazing. And I'm now into Feeders 2 and The Suckling as well. So oh boy, The Suckling, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for you to watch The Suckling.
I'm in.
Have your kid in the room for that one too.
Oh yeah, that'll be good.
I usually don't let him watch. He's seen Jaws. I think that's about. He kind of haphazard walked in when I was watching Dark Age and watched the whole thing with me, which was a trip.
But then he also tried to eat a child at school. So you got to think about that. So if you show suckling, I can only imagine what he's going to try. So let's.
The next day after he watched Dark Age with me, I got a call and they were like, yeah, he was hanging out under the slide on the playground, grabbing the kid's feet when they touched the ground and saying he was a killer crocodile.
So, so pick your battles.
Oh my gosh.
Just make believe. It's okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Nobody was hurt. It's fine. Killer crocodile. That makes the game fun. So. But anyways, onward to Don't Panic. So Elric and I had the fortune of, we showed Don't Panic as part
with Brett,
of,
I believe.
I believe it was with Brett. We did it. Elric and I hosted a screening of it at UCLA. Sorry, USC. Moonlighting. So at UCLA as part of an AGFA festival that they were doing there. And it's been a number of years, but it was just such a bonkers, wonderful screening. You can definitely see notes of Nightmare on Elm Street, but you're going to see a lot of other kind of things that they're really kind of borrowing from as well. Plus, it's kind of a really entertaining movie in its own right as well.
And one of my favorite other subgenres, like Pieces, where it's like, you're in America right now. Watch, you're in America. Here it is. Here's America. Like, I think at some point they actually aren't in America, but I always appreciate those initial. And also Ruben Galindo Jr., speaking of Vinegar Syndrome, I actually think one of the best new to me horror films I saw in the last year was his film, very different tone, because this is quite a goofy, outrageous movie, but Cemetery of Terror is really good and has all these cool Halloween-y vibes, like of people actually trick-or-treating. So I think it would be a great film for people to check out at Halloween. Also, the other one was Grave Robbers, which was also solid, but to me, Cemetery of Terror is like one of the highlights. I went
onto the Vinegar Syndrome website today to see if I could pick that one up, and I think they're all sold out.
Oh, really? Interesting. No, it's really good, and hopefully they'll get more for people to make it a Halloween staple. Also, Hugo Stiglitz, the greatest south of the border actor in my mind, is in that too. So somebody just needs that Blu-ray of Night of the Thousand Cats. And when are we going to host Night of a Thousand Cats? Because I have not lived until we get to host that movie. It's only 60
minutes. This has become your slugs, because you got Alex to watch Night of a Thousand Cats.
Oh, I own that movie now.
You should. I own 2 copies just in case. I always worry because I don't trust Go Road Bill. I mean, he's not going to make more of these things. So.
Well, and I did find it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Brett and I were masterminding our big return to the IMAX. So.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if that was it.
Strap yourselves in.
I'm excited.
70 millimeter would be amazing. So those cats in slow motion flying. Oh man.
Oh my gosh, guys, I can't wait to get back to the in-person screening. See, this is the type of shit that I want to see in a theater. Cruella, my kids are just going to spill their popcorn and it's going to be tragic anyway. But this shit, I will totally watch in a theater anytime.
I can make that dream come true.
I know. Devil's Honey somewhere in there. Devil's Honey. I actually was just, I had a student reach out today who is coming to the university starting in fall. And he was so excited because he can actually come to some of these live screenings because he listens to the podcast. And I was like, I feel like we need to make Devil's Honey happen just for your freshman year, just to celebrate you arriving on campus. So yeah, exposing the youth of America to brilliant films like Devil's Honey.
We'll have to do 2 showtimes.
Gonna sell out. I totally agree. Excellent. Okay, so Don't Panic. Brett, do you have any backstories on this one other than it's Hugo Stiglitz's finest work?
The director is named
Ruben Galindo Jr.
Ruben Galindo Jr. is going to look it up, and this is coming from a wave of later 80s exploitation horror from Mexico. I don't know what was in the air in terms of their home video industry or what have you at the time, but Vinegar Syndrome is embarking on a number of Mexican 80s restorations, including there's one coming up called Intrepidos Punks.
I love it. Okay, so Intrepidos Punks.
Should I have not said that? I don't know. Like,
well, also I think they're doing the Rene Cordona Jr. box set, and in that there's one of the movies that Cyclone, which is Watch that thing. Be very careful if you love your pet dog.
Oh, Cyclone is a
oh my god, there's
dog.
one scene.
That's a
there's
harsh
one scene. Yeah, but
Cyclone's one that I saw when I was a kid, and that it stuck with me because it's got a really cool box cover with a shark on it.
Yeah, and it's aquatic horror technically. There's some
technically,
horror,
and I watched that when I was way too young, and the dog scene like destroyed me. But
yeah, it's pretty.
I'm probably saying it wrong as well. Intrepidos Punks, it might be. But yeah, that one is just a wild movie of kind of biker outlaws that are just fucking up this town, but the town's really ruthless as well. So it's just like evil people against evil people. But there's like good happening within the punks. And when I say punks, I mean, it's like spikes and like pierced eyeballs.
Wait, is that the one you watched like in Spanish because you couldn't find one with subtitles?
Yes.
Just, like,
I watched
nice.
it. It is on YouTube, but I couldn't find. So this is the one that I said I'd been trying to find forever because I'd seen it when I was in high school and had not seen it since then. And so at the time, it was my cover on Facebook, if I remember correctly. But I had been searching for it and I couldn't find a copy. And I ended up watching it on YouTube, but there were no subtitles. And at the time, this was back during the pandemic, I'd been taking Spanish. And so I was like, it's a test of my Spanish. Nice. And I was able to follow along enough that I could get some of the plot. But yeah, don't watch it on YouTube. It was a shitty blown out copy with no subtitles. Wait, if Vinegar Syndrome is putting that out, it's a bonkers film. It's a little rapey at parts, but it's what you're going to get from this time period. But it's a bonkers exploitation film.
I would say that the second half of the 80s in Mexico is the feel of the movies is akin to the second half of the 80s in Italy. Not like it's not a one-to-one analog, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of like the fashion, the color, the strange stabby music cues that like put themselves right into your skull.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So now we're coming back after Don't Panic to check in with any questions. So if people,
yeah, that works.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. See everybody.
Brett, I don't know. Are you?
I'm not sure. We'll see what happens.
Depends if Don't Panic grabs him again. Let's see what happens.
Cool. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Don't panic. Don't panic. Did you guys see that Screaming Mad George did the effects?
I didn't notice that.
It just dropped it in the credits, which is crazy.
Yeah, we made a fatal flaw.
What's our fatal?
We put a movie after WINTERBEAST. Like I'm sitting there going, it doesn't matter what movie we played right here. It's just we just watched WINTERBEAST for the first time. And it's like everything else just kind of washed over me. Even Don't Panic, even as bonkers as Don't Panic. So
I think my takeaway from that movie is that my eyebrows are severely lacking, guys. That was some beautiful. That. Yeah, I need to work on that. But
the interesting thing we just did. So our new episode is on 80s sequels, and what's interesting to me watching this the second time, I didn't really think about it the first time, is it's a ripoff of Nightmare 2. Because
it is a ripoff of Nightmare 2.
It's not Nightmare 1.
Embodying the body.
Yeah, and it's as if almost like the main character is the Robert Ressler character in this case, not the guy who's actually being inhibited, which is his friend. So it's like a role reverse. But it's really all the same feel, even some of the campiness, obviously, of Nightmare 2. I just found it had a lot more in common with that than Nightmare or any of the others. But it's still very entertaining, and the music's great, and those pajamas are bonkers. But I don't know, man. I'm watching the movie, and all I'm seeing still is flashes of WINTERBEAST. I can't shake the WINTERBEAST. I just can't do it.
This for me was a very different. Am I getting feedback right now? If I unplug my headphones for a sec, okay, cool. Because I'm all caught up in wires. So yeah, this for me is a very different movie from WINTERBEAST, obviously. But I love this because you can see they are really trying to embody everything that is the late 1980s in this, with like the teen culture, the pajamas. No, it's hard to take him serious in those pajamas.
Hard to believe they exist, that there was adult pajamas that size back then. That's so
I
weird.
Actually was able to order a pair. There was a pair that became available on the Vinegar Syndrome site in a medium. So I have ordered a pair of the pajamas in medium.
That's your second mistake of the night.
Along with the Suckling. And there was something else I picked up that looked really cool. I got Tammy and the T-Rex just because I wanted it. Oh, Witch Trap. which I have not seen yet. So I have those on the, so I'm doing my Vinegar Syndrome shopping while we're actually doing the show. But yeah, Don't Panic. It's just this kind of beautiful, you can see exactly what they were trying to take from Nightmare, you know, with these kind of nightmare sequences, and some really, really kick. Like some of them, you know, just have this great punch to them. There was a scene where he's like having a nightmare sequence and it just cuts to one of the girls with the knife sticking straight out of her head, smiling at him from this rather flattering angle. It's like a glamour shot. And it was a really nice moment. And some of those really sell. I can't take the nightmares seriously as soon as the jammies come into play, but I am impressed how they did not get blood on the jammies, because they were full white, and there are times when he's got blood all over his face and hands and he's running around, but the jammies do not have a speck on them. That's a feat. I don't know how they did that.
Yeah, it's an impressive thing.
Elric's sleepy, I can tell.
No, I'm not. I can't follow up WINTERBEAST. I just can't. Sometimes some movies are just not meant to be followed. They're just, you know.
Well, we got a hot question from the audience. If the dinosaur pajamas gave him superpowers.
Oh, good question. Because he did keep them on. Did you guys notice? He did not take the dino jammy bottoms off when he put on Tony's pants at Tony's apartment. So those jammies
could have been the psychic energy, huh?
Yeah, it could have been. Okay. So I dug the Don't Panic soundtrack as well. This one, it had a lot of really good synth to it.
I see that Tamara has a hand raised. I'm not sure if that's in response to this movie or the last one, and she just forgot to lower her hand. But should we
That's how I feel.
Let's do it. It's late. Let's roll those dice.
All right, Tamara, we're gonna bring you over.
It is interesting. Oh, here we go.
Jules also raised his hand. Okay. So Tamara, if you're out there, feel free to turn on your video and say hello. And Jules, I'll move you over too. Just keep your camera off until.
Tamara, are you with us?
Maybe not.
Okay.
But Jules, you should be coming over too if you want. Yeah. All right. There we go.
Jules, are you with us? I need a Ouija for this.
It's the part of the night where everything's just a bot. They're just bot accounts we've hired.
Jules, how you doing? You're on mute, sir.
Dr. McKendry, you mentioned Screaming Mad George, and I'd seen this movie before. To me, the Screaming Mad George moment in the film is where the brother gets the knife up through his chin. He opens his mouth and you see the knife inside.
Right? And as I was watching it, I was even like, is that an eyeball? And then I realized it was an actual like reflection, like you're catching a glimpse of that knife.
Right.
That is
That's Screaming Mad George all the way to go for that detail.
Yeah, that is really good. And I do have to say the special effects in this movie are good. Kind of the scene where she's sitting in class and the blood's pouring out all over the outfit. I mean, of course, it's reminiscent of the nightmare scene in class, but at the same time, I mean, it's being really well executed. And the director obviously knew that it was much creepier if it happens in broad daylight and the actress doesn't seem to notice it and is smiling during it. And it really amps it up. But even just the way that they had it with the tiny little spurts all over, it was very Screaming Mad George.
Yeah, the movie was less camp for me this time and altogether a better movie. It actually is very smooth.
So was it your first time seeing WINTERBEAST?
Yes. Nobody's seen WINTERBEAST before this.
And thoughts on that one?
Oh, incidentally, they also had the pajamas in XX, and I got a pair.
Excellent. Yeah. I like that we are really moving those pajamas for Vinegar Syndrome tonight. Gonna be like, you can thank us guys for the clearance.
Absolutely.
I believe somebody pointed out on Facebook or somewhere that DJ from Roseanne wore a pair in the TV show in the 80s as well. So
Really?
so they must have just been a popular, like a brand, a generic Target brand or whatever back in the day. Yeah. So I mean, I'm surprised they still had them in adult size.
They weren't bespoke for this movie?
No, they weren't. They were they were actually out there.
Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm gonna like wear them to go get groceries and shit. So
the bottoms for around the house, the top definitely wearing out.
I'm totally wearing that out. So excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jules. Have a good night.
Thank you too. And
Take care.
I've really enjoyed these sessions.
Oh my gosh, so have
Thanks for
we.
coming.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if we can keep these going, and as well as in person. I've had a lot of fun doing these online ones and getting to talk with our listeners from around the country.
Incidentally, have either of you seen Millennium Day? The rarest movie ever, I think. I mean, it's a film that's so bad that the director, there's no link from his name on the movie to anybody's resume on IMDb. And Joe Estevez, who is the star of the movie,
Of course he is.
appears nowhere on the page, and the movie is nowhere in his resume.
Wow, no one in his resume. That's telling you something.
Joe Estevez
Joe will put his name on anything. Wow. All right. I have not seen that movie, and I just looked it up and could not even find anything on it. So,
yeah, it's
now the hunt begins. Somebody even just while we were.
I need a copy.
All right.
Elric is quite good at hunting these things down. Even while we were actually doing the show, somebody on Twitter turned me on to something called Crocodile Fury. And it looks like Rambo with crocodiles. And I was like, I'm not sure what this is, but I am so in. And immediately, Elric, I just tweeted
Search will begin.
That you must find this because it's not available on any format. So I must see Crocodile Fury. I have to.
There's one guy in someplace in Kansas who is offering copies of Millennium Day, but only VHS tape copies of it.
Wow.
He's turning off of his own VHS tape.
That is
okay. Well, we're going to Kansas.
And they're like about $89, I think.
We're not going to Kansas. Kansas trip is canceled. Fuck Kansas. All right.
This does kind of speak to like a lot of the appeal of these movies, like something like WINTERBEAST, and something that Elric and I talk a lot about on the show, which is like the thrill of the hunt. The thrill of, this hidden gem that I've never seen before that I'm now finally being able to glimpse eyes on that is, super hard to find. Something like I mentioned at the top of the show with Body Shop, which isn't available on anything. And now Crocodile Fury, like knowing it might not be great, my anticipation is way up because it's hard to find. And
also regional horror, not just regional to America, but just region. And it's so refreshing to see horror movies made in states and small towns that don't usually make them, but also countries that don't. I remember as a Kiwi seeing Black Sheep in theaters and just thinking it's pretty stupid at the time. Now I kind of respect and like it more than I did at the time, because you get a sense of the place coming through the horror, and you really do see the difference in how most foreign horror is trying to please American audiences. They're trying to shape it to break into an American audience. So obviously maybe not, at certain periods of Italy and Japan, South Korea, they might have their own audiences that can actually go to the box office and support a movie, but most countries don't. So they're making it literally to export it. And so I watched this, and that's what I get, partly too. It's like, this is really not made for Mexico City. This is made for America.
Beverly Hills, baby.
Yeah, which is fun. It's a fun thing to see that kind of through that filter, I guess.
I am legit shocked to hear you say that about Black Sheep, because that movie.
Oh, I laughed, but it made
like a relatively big splash over here, and it was really charming. I was in New York City working for Fangoria at the time, and we did a big screening of it. New York sponsored a big screening of it at the Two Boots, which had
it's that cringe factor that you get from where you're from, like when you hear the accent, when you hear people making jokes about sheep, and you come from New Zealand. It's like there is a cringe factor, but with time that grows on you. Like first time I saw Bad Taste, I didn't just think it was the worst film I'd ever seen. I just thought it was like hot garbage, like the worst thing ever. And now it's one of my favorite movies because I'd never heard people talk like that before. Like it's just like the people I talk to every day suddenly were in this movie, and it didn't make any sense to me how they were allowed to be in a movie. Like, it was just strange. But that's a regional thing. I bet if something was made in like, the town you're in from Virginia, you start to see something that is a weird, I don't know. It's like too close. Dreams, movies are more like a dream lens.
Honey, we have our own like exploitation subgenre. Like, think redneck exploitation is literally based on the region of America.
No, I know the area.
But I mean, like, out of Deliverance, which was shot like 10 miles from where I was born. So yeah, but what's odd about that, and I remember the last year we were at Chattanooga Film Festival, we saw Joe Bob give a really good lecture on this. The idea that for some reason Appalachia was both kind of turned off by the redneck exploitation, but then embraced it. And that's what I remember growing up with, was my dad was very picky about the movies he watched. But if it was like a White Lightning or a Gator or Burt Reynolds being rednecky in anything, we would watch that shit in repetition. Smokey and the Bandit. And so it was like this kind of, it's us they're making fun of, but we're going to hug it at the same time. So yeah, it's a weird dichotomy going on. But anyways, thank you so much, Jules. I know it's super late for this. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us.
Thank both of you for your enthusiasm. And Alex lights up like with nobody else as much as he lights up with the two of you. So that's cool to see.
I love hanging with Alex because I still am completely shocked that, I get to teach at such an awesome film school with awesome film brains like Alex, and they let me show WINTERBEAST. So I will never get over that.
Elric Kane has no affiliation with USC schools. That must be at this time. All college, LA. Okay, there you go.
We'll get you over here. We'll get you into the fray.
We're working on it.
It's too late. It's too late.
We might have to send you to
soon, I hope. Yeah. When do you think you'll be opening up, Alex, in terms of live screenings?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to wait before announcing any special events, because the key thing is that our classes go back into the classroom by the beginning of the fall semester, which is late August. And the wild card there is that if we have distancing within the theaters, it's going to force classes that are in smaller rooms to move up into the bigger spaces, which might mean that there isn't any theater left. But I don't really know, but I don't think that's what's going to happen, but we'll see.
That's going to be interesting. Teaching 507 in the broccoli. We'll see how it rolls. Right. 507 is my very small production class. It's like my intro class that I do for grad students. And I've taught it in the broccoli before, which is wild because that's like a 200 seat theater for like 10 students. But yeah, we'll see how it rolls.
And if we don't have access to the IMAX, then we may do what we call a dive-in movie, which is where we put a screen up at the Olympic pool, and that movie will be Cruel Jaws.
Yes.
It might be Crocodile Fury if we're lucky.
Let's find some Crocodile Fury. I would love to do a dive-in movie. You've done those before, right, Alex?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I mean they're a lot of fun. The only thing is that it's sort of like a whole big setup to do it, but it's a good time.
Oh my gosh!
Although the actual movie becomes pretty unimportant.
I'm picturing like
doing some like movies on the lake. I've heard stories about them maybe doing this in Echo Park or other spots.
Oh, wow! And they just cleaned up Echo Park, I've heard. So
I was there today. It was gorgeous.
Really? Oh my gosh. It's really close to the school that Elric teaches at, runs the department. So I'm
not allowed to name it while I'm on this air, apparently. Both Becca and Alex made me sign a rider, so it's fine.
USC will come sniper.
USC dominates here, I get it.
Blur out it as you say it, but
even though we name checked UCLA, yeah.
Actually, I taught classes at UCLA before I came over to USC. So enlightened professors. Here we go where we need.
Why'd you leave?
USC.
Ask any of the instructors at UCLA and you'll get that answer right now. Boom. Trash talking. Let's do it.
Trash talking to UCLA.
Jules, I'm gonna move you back over.
Well, thank you so much, Jules.
Boy, that got nerdy fast.
Yeah, it did. It's super nerdy. Well, guys, it is like 11 o'clock and I'm like turning into a pumpkin, if that's a thing.
We did good. We're not going to have one of these next month.
But we're not really sure when it will return, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I am leaving for Mississippi to go shoot, and there's a very good chance that Elric will be shooting something directly after me. So hopefully by the time we are back in session at USC and things are feeling somewhat normal, we may be able to move these back, but I would still love to see us continue some type of online component in some capacity, just because this has been so much fun and we've gotten to meet so many amazing people from across the country.
Without a doubt, even when we are fully back on campus, I want to do stuff like this to continue to connect with people who are across the whole country or even really the world, because it's been such a great opportunity to, stay in touch with alumni and reach international students, and of course your listeners who are really all over the map.
And it's been great because in my normal classes at USC, because I teach a lot of the intro classes, I'm always showing canon films. So it's always like, okay, well, here's Goodfellas. Okay, here's Parasite, and just these kind of like, beacons of what good cinema is. And it's hard for me to work things like Cruel Jaws or WINTERBEAST into my intro classes, but this is a great way for me to say, cinema is not always going to be, the biggest, flashiest, splashiest Oscar films, but even stuff like WINTERBEAST is just as important. And to say you love cinema, you have to love the entire scope from, the big giant Oscar films to the stuff that's homemade in the middle of a backyard in Massachusetts.
When you said Parasite, I thought it was the Demi Moore film by Charles Band. That shows how low rent I am. My friend, I've forgotten about the Oscar-winning Parasite.
You go like the killer leech monster.
I was like, oh, that's not even a very good movie, Becca. Why are you showing that at USC?
I totally show it in all my intro classes. I'm like, okay, here's Goodfellas. Now we're going to watch like The Godfather. And now we're going to watch Demi Moore's Parasite, Charles Band.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. This has been an absolute trip as always. And I'm glad that we got to share our first WINTERBEAST screening with people.
Yeah, that was particularly awesome. I suggest at some point we try doing that again. But I mean, so it's hard to imagine another gem like WINTERBEAST just sort of falling into our laps like that. But
it would have only Nightbeast could really follow WINTERBEAST. But then it would be too much. It's just too much.
I have ordered the Suckling, guys. So we'll see how that goes.
That's not one to share publicly. That is a private event for you alone with your TV. And your doctor, your specialist, because that is not to be shared.
Absolutely not.
I don't want my son walking in and watching that one with me.
Probably not. All right, but next time, let's hunt bears.
We should have hunted bears, guys.
From now on, I think that has to be how we end every episode until people go, "What was that movie from? What's that line from?" WINTERBEAST.
And I do have to. Dave joined me for these as well. He's still sitting here with a Moscow Mule. And it was just kind of a fun family viewing, at least for the first one. I made the kid leave for the second. But yeah, these were just joyous films to watch tonight.
More stop-action poultry.
More stop-action poultry.
Wait, you didn't show the kid with the knife in the head, did you?
No, he walked in.
Okay, WINTERBEAST only.
WINTERBEAST only.
Okay.
WINTERBEAST only.
Yeah. Panic gets a little shady.
We're going to subject our child to WINTERBEAST, sir.
I'll let you guys do whatever you want. I'm not gonna.
Don't Panic had like the 10-minute sex scene as well. By the way.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Cruella's probably more disturbing though. Let's be honest.
I've heard it's quite good. Actually, Monty texted me. We're getting very specific now, but Monty texted me earlier today and was like, "You really need to see Cruella. It's like campy. It's going to be your thing." So I have now paid the $30 to the mouse, and I'm going to watch it tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah,
Okay.
but
we were meant to end right when I did the bear line, guys. We've totally killed the ending line. This is what we're not good at outros here.
We have 50
let's get better at that.
Still watching us fumble an outro.
They're bots, you know it. I know it. We just don't advertise it. All right. Have a good summer, everyone.
You guys, we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.